Getting stuck is easy. Getting unstuck is not so easy, unless you know how. Whether it's personally or professionally, the steps to change are exactly the same. There's a clear-cut formula to living the life you want and deserve. Are you ready to make a change? It's easier than you think. Go to thehabitformulabook.com and get yourself a free copy. Remember, you don't even have to read it. Just do the exercises at the end of each chapter. If you want me to hold your hand, upgrade your order to the premium course. These principles are the same steps I took to work 25% less and make 30% more. If you seriously want to change something in your life, thehabitformulabook.com will show you how. And get yourself a free copy or upgrade to the premium course for even better and faster results. And get unstuck today. thehabitformulabook.com. Hey everybody, you know what time it is. It's lunchtime with the Habit Master. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Aldrich, and I change bad habits so you can have the best year ever. If you tweak your habits, you can tweak your life, okay? Today is Tuesday, so of course today's my favorite topic. It's Tooth Tuesday. What we're going to dive into today is all about whitening. We're going to kind of do just a generic overview of what whitening does. What is it? What does it do? What can it do? And that's an important thing for people to know, because whitening can't do everything. Whitening can't solve every problem, every shading problem, every discoloration problem, right? And the last thing is what to avoid. Okay, after whitening, just whitening in general, what are we going to talk about with avoidance? Okay. Before I get started, if you guys want a free copy of this book, it's called Nothing But the Tooth, 11 Questions You Should Ask Your Dentist. It's a great reference to different topics that I basically deal with every day in the dental office. And you don't even have to read it, only if you have a particular question. And, certain things we talk about. So today we're talking about whitening. That's chapter 3 in this book. It talks about different aspects. Pretty much everything we're going to cover today, we talk a little bit about in this book, okay? Also about dental insurance. How can I afford this treatment? Should I be eating crunchy foods, which you already know that answer to that. Why should I use a soft toothbrush? Why should I floss? I have a 2-year-old with a binky. Got all my teeth out and my dentures are all over the place. What options do I have? What are the consequences of having a dry mouth? I chipped a front tooth and the filling keeps coming out. What's the matter? During my checkup, the hygienist and dentist talk about different things. What do they mean? So this is a great reference guide. You can grab your free copy and download a free ebook on akrondentalconcepts.com, which is my office website. And you can do that today. If you want to change the bad habits that you're having, you can also grab a free copy of this. Go to thehabitformulabook.com if you want to upgrade your order and really dive into this material and get the best outcomes that you can get and make 2019 the best year ever. Upgrade your order. So go to thehabitformulabook.com and check it out. So today we're talking about whitening, okay? Whitening is over a $7.5 billion, with a B, billion dollar a year industry. They put whitening in pretty much everything. You've got your whitening toothpaste. You've got your little whitening pens. You've got your whitening gels. You've got whitening strips. You've got whitening mouth rinses. Pretty much anything you stick in your face has some type of whitening in it, okay? And that's good, and it's also really bad too. And I really think over time they're going to start taking things off the market because it's really doing a lot of damage to our teeth. So you have to go into a whitening treatment with the knowledge that if I do too much of this, it can harm the enamel, which a couple of weeks ago we went over enamel. That's the hardest substance in our body. And if we damage it, it doesn't come back. It doesn't just regrow itself. It can help to repair itself, which is what fluoride helps to do, is create a stronger bond, but it never does repair itself fully. You can't regrow enamel on your teeth. So if you're putting little potholes in them because you're using too much whitening material, then that's not bad, okay? So, what is whitening material? What is whitening? What is this crazy gel that we're putting in your mouth? Whitening is is peroxide. It's basically the good old peroxide that you get in a little brown bottle that has a little cap on it and you put on your wound or something like that. What they do is it's a different percentage and they put it in a gel like glycerin type gel so that it stays on your teeth, right? And what peroxide? So you have two types of peroxides out there. You have hydrogen peroxide, which is the stuff that comes in the little brown bottle, but there's a sister component to that, and that is the carbamide peroxide. And both are used widely on the market. Certain hydrogen peroxide is usually a different concentration than the carbamide sister. So even though, let's say that, okay, my dentist gives me this whitening gel that's so much percentage, that doesn't mean that it's stronger or weaker than the sister component, because they're different percentages. So you really have to be careful with what you're putting on your teeth and the strength of it, because it can cause sensitivity, and we'll kind of go into that here in a few minutes. But it's basically peroxide. And what is peroxide? It's a weak acid. So it's acidic, right? And what it does is it sits on the nooks and crannies of the enamel, because even though enamel is a hard substance, it can have little divots, little nooks and crannies in it, just enough that it collects organic stain. So think dark stuff, your dark beer, your wine, your spaghetti sauce, your ketchup, mustard, condiments, okay? Your coffee, your tea can definitely start staining. If it's staining your coffee mug, okay, it can stain your teeth too. And over time, this can, build up, and your teeth start looking a little dingy. They start, looking a little, darker. And what the peroxide does is, as it sits on that organic stain, it releases oxygen. It kind of foams up, right? And it disintegrates, because it's acidic. It disintegrates that organic stain. The problem with whitening materials is it disintegrates. It's a weak acid. So if you keep putting it on the enamel, you can actually, especially if it's stronger stuff, you can actually damage the enamel permanently. That can cause cold sensitivity issues. It can cause actual decalcification areas in the enamel, where then you actually have to either crown the tooth, veneer the tooth, or put a filling in that area, okay, and cover it up to seal it, because the enamel then is not doing its job. So, we definitely want to be careful with whitening materials and make sure that we're not overdoing it. In my office, we do both take-home whitening trays, where you get a little gel, you get a little impression of your mouth, and you put the material in the gel inside the tray, and then you wear it for, half an hour or 20 minutes kind of thing. If you notice you have sensitivity when you're doing that, skip a day. That's what I tell all my patients. Skip a day. Instead of going 30 minutes, go 20 minutes, go 15 minutes. Sometimes that's enough for your, tooth structure, and you don't want to cause any more sensitivity. So skip a day, skip every other day. If you have sensitive teeth, if you have wear at the gum line, because you've overbrushed, because, you have recession there, try to keep the whitening gel off of that. If we do in-office whitening, which is your second type, so you have take-home trays or you have in-office whitening, and your dentist might do that where they put a gel on your teeth and they blast it with this light. What the light does is it kind of excites, it puts energy into that peroxide molecule and it makes it scrub. Think of scrubby bubbles, right? Those commercials where the scrubby bubbles comes in and, you know, cleans your bathtub or your sink, right? The whitening light does the same kind of thing. It excites that scrubby bubble, that carbamide or hydrogen peroxide molecule, and it makes it disintegrate the organic stain even faster. So, you know, you got to be careful though that you're not applying these materials too much to the tooth structure, or it can cause a sensitivity. I know if people have a little bit of recession or sensitive, you know, one tooth is more sensitive, we either skip the tooth or we cover it with a special plastic dam that we use here in the office, and that usually allows the whitening gel to stay off of that tooth. It keeps it away, keeps it on the surface we want to whiten, but away from the sensitive stuff. So, you know, it's basically peroxide, so it's a weak acid, so you got to be careful with this. You want to whiten your teeth, but you don't want to overdo it. So what does it do? We just talked about that. It disintegrates or breaks up any organic stain. What can it do? And this is an important thing to think about when you're trying whitening. Well, I tried everything on the market and my teeth are still dark. Well, if your teeth are still dark after putting some type of peroxide on your tooth structure, it's probably because you have what's called intrinsic stain. Your teeth actually are dark from the inside out. They were developed that way. Maybe you have, I know myself, I had a lot of earaches as a child, and the protocol back then was to give tetracycline. Well, they noticed that tetracycline with, you know, people in my generation in their 40s, you know, we have dark teeth. And that's one thing that they discovered was tetracycline actually incorporates into bones. So even my long bones, my arm bone, my leg bone, you know, my back, my spine, whatever, will have traces of tetracycline staining in them, because that's when they were forming that, you know, the layers or whatever, that it incorporated into that. And so if you've used whitening materials, you have maybe purplish grayish teeth or really brown teeth or maybe striations, they're striped a little bit, more than likely you have some type of intrinsic stain. That means that they were made that way. Whitening is not going to touch that. There is nothing that I can put all the peroxide on your teeth as I can and have them sit there for days, and it's not going to do anything. It will brighten them some if you do have extrinsic stain on your teeth, which means the coffee stain and, you know, stuff that is accumulated in those nooks and crannies. But as far as your overall tooth structure, if your teeth are darker, just to begin with, when you were a kid, think back, oh, my teeth were darker. Guess what? It's never going to get them lighter, you know, the whites of your eyes or Hollywood smile. The only way that you can deal with that is to cover them up either with crowns or veneers or something like that. You actually have to restore the teeth in order for the color to change. So something to think about when, you know, you want to do some whitening materials. And I have patients here that, you know, I tell them your teeth are darker. I don't know how much lighter they're going to get. Sometimes they do get lighter, sometimes they don't, but at least they know ahead of time because I've explained it to them, and that's what I'm explaining to you. What can it do? If you have staining that was kind of built in when these teeth were formed when you were a little kid, it's not going to touch it. Another thing it won't touch is any dental work that you've had done. So let's say you have crowns in the front or a veneer in the front, or let's say bonding, tooth-colored composite plastic fillings. It will not touch the fillings at all. It won't change the color of those because that's not an organic stain. You know, stain from, you know, tea or coffee or, you know, some kind of food or drink, right? That is an actual material that's plastic or porcelain, and It's not stain, that's actually a hue or a pigment that is built into that material. And the whitening, the peroxide, is not going to do that. Now, let's say that you have a bonded filling and you're starting to get coffee stain around the edge. Sometimes, depending on how much that stain has ingrained into that interface between the filling and the tooth structure, if it's real deep, whitening's not going to take care of it. And what you need to do is have your dentist ditch that area out and then reseal it, right? But let's say it's just on the surface a little bit. A lot of times whitening, white strips, whitening gel with trays or something like that, a lot of times it can penetrate just a little bit and disintegrate that stain. And then you can have your dentist kind of buff it out, maybe reseal that edge so you won't catch any more stain there. So those are some tricks and tips to look out for when you're thinking about whitening. What to avoid with whitening? The easy rule is you shouldn't be whitening more than, let's say, you're coloring your hair, okay? When we get older, especially women, we're coloring our hair once or twice, maybe once a month at the most, maybe every other month, whatever. You shouldn't do take-home whitening any more than that, or whitening strips, or, any type of whitening product you shouldn't be putting on your teeth any more than that. This includes whitening toothpaste, whitening gel, crest strips, whitening mouth rinse, all this stuff that's on the market. You go to the store and you look at the big shelf of toothpaste products and dental products, and what do you see? Everything has whitening in it. Even Sensodyne now has whitening in it, which is completely against the whole sensitivity thing, because peroxide causes sensitivity. So now you're putting the potassium nitrate in the toothpaste to help clog up the molecules, and now you're putting a weak acid in there that disintegrates all that stuff. Like, it just blows my mind. But of course they want to get in the game too, and people think that, hey, I'm whitening my teeth and it's also helping my sensitivity. It truly is not, because it's counterintuitive. You're putting one thing in and the other part that's coming in is disintegrating the first part. So you're really not helping the situation by buying something that has whitening, a whitening component in it, okay? What to avoid? So let's say you do in-office whitening, which is a very, very strong product. If I touch it with my finger accidentally, it actually burns my skin. That's how strong this peroxide is, right? We even put a dam around your gums. We keep your cheeks and your tongue and everything out of the way. We have to be very careful with this stuff because it is so strong it burns stuff, right? When you do that type of procedure, I will not do it on anyone more than once a year. And even then, usually you're good for a couple of years. I know myself, I usually do it every other year. It just depends on, my eating and drinking habits. But, I get a little crazy with the tea, especially in the wintertime. So if I see it, but a lot of times too, you get 3 15-minute sessions. I'll only do maybe one 15-minute session. It's all I need, and I don't want to cause sensitivity. And that's usually enough to, brighten them a few shades and they look good. If you're doing take-home trays or if you're doing white strips, I definitely wouldn't recommend it. Maybe 4 times a year. That's plenty. You could probably get away with twice a year. Plenty, plenty, plenty. If you notice your gums are getting red, you notice that they're getting puffy, they're getting sore, and you're like, what the heck is going on? Maybe they start hurting, they're aching, they're sore to touch. You can't even eat or drink things because they're getting sensitive. It's probably from your whitening products that you're using. You're using too much of it. It is burning the tissue, and it's also irritating the tissue, and they're starting to get swollen. When this happens, stop immediately. Just cut it out. I tell patients all the time, you need to get a different toothbrush or toothpaste or mouth rinse. Make sure there's no whitening in there. I don't use a whitening toothpaste at all on my gums. or my teeth, I have zero sensitivity issues. Especially if you have sensitivity issues, get rid of the whitening products. You're only supposed to use them once in a while, not every day. It can build up, and I've seen people that are so swollen. I had to send them to the oral surgeon. They had to put them on a steroid because they were so inflamed and going into a hyperreactive state. So make sure that you're not using the whitening materials every day. This is a once in a while kind of thing. You got to have moderation with this stuff. I know at some point dentists are going to complain enough to the dental board that they're going to end up taking this stuff off the market, or at least decrease the concentration of this material, because I really don't think that there's a advisory board on how much peroxide they put in these toothpastes and these mouth rinses, these over-the-counter products, and it's something that really needs to be watched and needs to be addressed, because people are really having allergic reactions to them. It's really damaging their tissues and their tooth structure. So in chapter 3 of my book, it's page 28, I'm going to read a little bit about whitening, and hopefully that'll give you some notes to ponder. So whitening products can dehydrate the enamel, causing sensitivity, right? Anytime I do an in-office whitening procedure on one of my patients, I always tell them that if I see any chalkiness on their teeth, this is the beginning signs of dehydration. So if you are using some type of whitening toothpaste or strips or gel from your dentist, make sure you don't see any chalkiness. If you do, decrease the amount of time that you keep that material on your teeth, because you are causing dehydration. Because it can cause tooth sensitivity. The pH of our products that we use in my office range between 3.5 to 5, which is basically the same pH of a soda, a pop, okay? If you remember from school, water has a pH of 7, so anything under 7 will have acidic effects. So you got to make sure you're careful with this stuff, because it will damage the enamel. Over-the-counter whitening products, I found, have a pH range of 5 to 11, and most of them are in the 5 range. So you're still acidic, right? Whitening toothpaste have a pH range of 4 to 6. So right away, most whitening products on the market are acidic. So something to know too, that we have on our scale of shade, our shade guide, it's a guide that has different colors, shades of teeth, right? And there's 4 main colors. We have a reddish, we have a yellowish, a brownish, and a grayish, right? And then your 4 degrees of all of those. So we have 16 shades, right, of most people's teeth. Most people are in the middle range. They're like an A3 or maybe a C1 kind of range, okay? And that's usually in the middle, right? It's like, how freaking white do you want your teeth? You gotta think of these things, right? How white do you want them, okay? You want the Hollywood white. Well, most people in Hollywood, those aren't their real teeth. I can tell you that. I've been doing this for 20 years. Most people, I mean, I have patients that are born in California, right? Or born in New York, okay? Most people don't have that white of teeth, okay? They're usually in the middle. A2, C1, they're in the middle of that shade scale. A little bit of whitening gets the organic stains off, and then they might be an A1, you know? But most people don't have that Hollywood smile, that smile where it's as white as, you know, the whites of your eyes, right? The people that have those smiles, it's fake, okay? It's not even their tooth structure. They're crowns and veneers, okay? You can make porcelain as opaque, as white as snow. I mean, you can make it as white as you want. And that's what those people have. Very rarely. I have very, very, very few people. I'm talking like less than 1% of people that I've seen in 20 years of doing this that have really, really white teeth. Okay? So you got to think like, how white do I need my teeth? I'm putting this stuff on there that's very acidic. Am I doing more damage than good? And that's what you gotta, understand. Am I doing more damage than good? You got, a wedding coming up, you've got, a special occasion. Well, that's all good, but am I doing more harm than good? Okay? Am I using this every day because I am a coffee drinker or a tea drinker, or, I like my stouts or, whatever. Well, that stuff takes a while to build up, right? And that's why I said earlier, you really don't have to do that stuff, more than, every few months, maybe 6 months. 2 to 3 times a year is all you need. Pop in some trays, do a little whitening strip, whatever. Get rid of the whitening products that are over the counter, including the toothpaste and the mouth rinses. When you do that, I'm telling you, you'll be set. So today we are talking about whitening. I'm going to recap a few tidbits about whitening products. What is it? It's basically a peroxide. You either have hydrogen peroxide or carbamide peroxide, and they have different strengths, and you really got to watch what type you're using, because the stronger it is, yes, it's going to zap that organic stain quicker, but yes, it can also dehydrate the teeth and cause sensitivity, or put little potholes in that enamel and cause issues that you'll have to get filled later on. What does it do? Whitening only disintegrates organic stain. That's it. It's stain that is on the surface of the tooth, in the nooks and crannies of the enamel, and that's all it does. What can it do? If you have previous dental work done, you have restorations, you have crowns, you have veneers, you have fillings, whitening materials, peroxide will not penetrate that, and it will not change the actual pigment of the materials. It's only going to do organic stain. Okay? Also, if you were born with dark teeth, right? Or maybe you had a fever and you have this little brown spot that developed on, the surface of your tooth. Guess what? Whitening's not going to touch that. That's ingrained. That's some type of pigmentation. Maybe you have braces and you have those white lines around it. That is a mark of something, damage to the enamel from not brushing well, from the glue, all that stuff that goes on with braces. It's not going to touch that. It's not going to do anything to it because it's not extrinsic stain. It's intrinsic. Okay, intrinsic means inside. It's developed into that. Okay, and the last thing, what to avoid: stop doing whitening treatment all the time. It hurts the enamel. It hurts the gums, and it can cause issues with the enamel. Okay. So I hope that these things that we talked about today, helped you get a grasp on when you should whiten, what you should use. Is this good for me to use a whitening toothpaste every day? No, that's the answer. Don't do it, right? Okay. If you guys ever have any questions, shoot me out an email, docaldrich@gmail.com. I always get those emails, and I can, help with any questions that you have. Remember, if you need a reference guide, I was reading straight from my book today, chapter 3 on whitening. It kind of goes into facts and tidbits and stuff. You can download a free copy at akrondentalconcepts.com. Also, you can grab a free copy of The Habit Formula at thehabitformulabook.com. Remember, you can find us on iTunes and Spotify if you're a podcast person. I always upload past episodes on there. I try to get it to it daily. Sometimes we're a day behind, but still you can re-listen in the car or on your tablet or iPhone if you miss, the Facebook Live. Also, sign up on my YouTube page. Go to The Habit Master and become a subscriber. I just cut 8 videos yesterday. that I'm going to be slowly, flowing out into the universe about the 3 pillars of success. You've got mindset, planning, and action. So I hope everybody learned something today. If you have any issues, shoot me out an email. And remember, we want to build good habits together. I'll see you guys tomorrow.